In an era where social media dictates its rules and idealized images become the norm, true strength and magnetism lie in what we usually hide from prying eyes. What if the secret to being unforgettable lies not in perfection, but in the courage to be yourself, without embellishment or embarrassment? Carl Jung, the great explorer of the human soul, argued that we are attracted not to what is perfect, but to what seems real. The 7 paradoxical qualities of a woman who cannot be forgotten contradict generally accepted standards. They are hidden in those aspects of personality that are usually hidden, in the intensity of feelings that we are taught to suppress. It's not about creating a new personality, but about revealing the one that has always lived inside, under the mask of social expectations. A woman who people are afraid to lose does not strive to be irreplaceable, and this is where her uniqueness lies. In a world where changes happen in the blink of an eye, the need for genuine connection remains unchanged. We are all looking for deep relationships that can stand the test of time and hardship. But what makes a woman unforgettable in the deepest sense of the word? What turns her into a force that cannot be ignored, into a personality that leaves an indelible mark on the hearts and memories of others? Carl Jung, studying the human psyche, left us the keys to understanding true attractiveness. It's not about appearance or meeting someone's expectations, but about something deeper, the energy that comes from within, the strength that does not need confirmation. And today, 7 secrets will be revealed that will help you become the woman no one will want to part with. From an early age, society persistently shapes certain behavioral patterns in us. We are encouraged to be responsive, accommodating, and always ready to compromise in order to avoid disagreements. However, the question arises, what does such upbringing lead to when it distances us from our true nature? Carl Jung spoke of the suppressed self. That part of the personality that we unconsciously sacrifice, striving to conform to generally accepted norms. Genuine charm manifests itself when a person stops adjusting to others and boldly demonstrates their individuality, without fear of condemnation and without hiding behind masks. All outstanding personalities are united by one quality: authenticity, that is, the ability to live in harmony with oneself without pretending to be someone else. In today's world, where the ostentatious prevails, sincerity becomes an act of courage. When a woman allows herself to be real without fear of criticism, she exudes confidence that cannot go unnoticed. However, authenticity should not be confused with inflexibility. It's not about declaring, "I am what I am and I'm not going to change," but about development based on self-awareness. Jung described the process of individuation as an inner journey during which we learn and accept ourselves while transforming. A woman who people are afraid to lose is not one who clings to a frozen image of herself, but one who dares to explore every corner of her soul, grows without losing her identity, and changes without betraying herself. Personal attractiveness cannot be imitated. It stems from a deep connection with one's own essence, from confidence that does not depend on external evaluation. This confidence has nothing to do with arrogance, but is a calm conviction in one's own worth, based not on other people's words, but on an inner feeling. According to Carl Jung, all aspects of personality that a person tries to suppress ultimately gain power over them, manifesting from the shadow of the unconscious. A woman who leaves an indelible impression does not hide her imperfections and does not feel ashamed of past traumas. On the contrary, she accepts them, includes them in her personality, and transforms them into a source of strength. Each interaction with another person leaves a mark, whether barely noticeable or more tangible. In some cases it is a fleeting impression, in others a lingering echo. The difference between a fleeting presence and one that sticks in the memory lies in the depth of impact. This depth is achieved not through ostentatious actions, but through the ability to touch the true feelings of another person. However, modern society often encourages people to avoid strong emotions, not to show excessive passion or emotionality, and not to be too demanding. People are taught to restrain themselves, to dim their inner light so as not to cause discomfort to others. But it is the ability to feel deeply that makes a woman unforgettable. It's not about striving for drama or needing attention, but about a deep connection with one's own energy. Carl Jung in his works examined the concepts of anima and animus, representing the feminine and masculine principles present in every person. A woman who has managed to combine both of these forces in her personality does not need anyone to feel complete. She doesn't seek validation from others, as she already recognizes her self-sufficiency. She doesn't beg for love, understanding that the love she seeks in the external world must first originate within her. When a woman acts with this confidence and sense of inner harmony, her presence becomes captivating and unforgettable. This isn't about isolating herself from the world, nor does it imply building impenetrable walls. A woman whose presence is valued isn't one who demonstrates detachment or indifference, but one who knows how to be open while maintaining her individuality. She gives herself without dissolving into another person, offering love without seeking external validation. This is what makes her unforgettable. As in today's world, it's rare to find someone capable of loving freely, not out of need. When a woman possesses deep self-knowledge, when she has examined her flaws and embraced her strengths, she becomes unpredictable. Not in the sense of being fickle, but in that she cannot be confined, as she doesn't define herself through the lens of others' opinions. This woman is capable of surprising. She doesn't allow herself to become mired in outdated stereotypes or imposed social roles. She is an individual who always has something new to discover because she is in a continuous process of self-discovery and development. Carl Jung, the eminent psychologist, introduced the concept of the shadow, the hidden area of the human psyche where fears, denied aspects of personality, and everything society deems unacceptable languish. Many women find themselves trapped by imposed limitations, suppressing their desires, impulses, and true voice, following social norms. However, an unforgettable woman, on the contrary, boldly faces her shadow, accepts it, and seeks to understand it, finding liberation in this. When a woman accepts her multifaceted nature and stops conforming to the expectations of others, she gains incredible strength. She no longer needs to wear masks or squeeze into tight frames, as her authenticity becomes her main weapon, attracting and captivating. True attractiveness is born not from external data, but from the depth of the inner world. Jung argued that true relationships are relationships between souls, not between masks. A woman whom people fear losing knows how to share silence without feeling awkward, doesn't avoid deep conversations, and boldly explores the dark corners of her soul, unafraid of what she might find there. There is a certain mystery in a woman who knows herself. She doesn't need to prove her worth or seek constant confirmation, as her confidence comes from the depths of her being, to which few have access. This confidence isn't arrogance, but the inner peace of a person who has walked their path, unafraid to face themselves. Carl Jung, a prominent thinker, noted that humanity is often trapped in social masks, playing roles dictated by social norms. However, a woman whose presence becomes invaluable exemplifies liberation from these shackles, choosing a path of self-expression without compromise or justification. Genuine attractiveness lies not in perfection, but in sincerity and authenticity. In today's world, where hypocrisy and external appearance prevail over inner essence, a woman who boldly demonstrates her true nature possesses magnetic power. She doesn't strive to conform to accepted standards, doesn't adapt to others' expectations, and doesn't sacrifice her identity for approval. Her existence becomes a symbol of freedom, resonating in the hearts of those around her. This freedom doesn't entail loneliness, but on the contrary, serves as a bridge, strengthening intimacy and attraction. Jung in his works revealed the concept of individuation, the process of becoming oneself. An unforgettable woman has gone this way, learning to be self-sufficient and not feel lonely. She appreciates company, but doesn't seek it desperately, realizing that relationships are not an escape from oneself, but a union of two complete personalities. When a woman stops seeking love out of need and begins to give it from a state of abundance, her inner energy transforms. She no longer needs to prove her worth, seek favor, or ask for attention. It is at this moment that she becomes irresistible, as true attraction arises not from need, but from an excess of inner harmony and confidence. We are talking about a woman with a rare quality. Her presence is so valuable that no one wants to lose her. She makes choices based on inner freedom, not on crippling fear. The influential psychologist Jung argued that the collective unconscious is filled with archetypes that have a profound impact on our relationships. Among them, the archetype of the wise woman stands out, a person who has achieved wholeness, accepting both her strengths and weaknesses. This woman does not seek to be accommodating or to seek approval. She is not afraid to cause discomfort to others. Her strength lies in her ability to awaken deep feelings in others, making it impossible to perceive her as an ordinary person. The magnetism of this woman is not based on manipulation or external tricks, but on the authenticity of her nature. Her influence transforms those around her, not intentionally, but thanks to a powerful energy that leaves an indelible mark. She does not aim to please, and this, paradoxically, makes her even more attractive. She does not try to keep anyone around, but her absence creates a feeling of irreplaceable loss. She is not afraid to show the full range of her feelings, not afraid to seem overly emotional or vulnerable. This woman realizes that openness and sincerity are not a sign of weakness, but a manifestation of genuine strength of spirit. She does not build impregnable emotional barriers around herself and does not resort to a mask of indifference, understanding that true love, strong friendship, and deep emotional connection require courage. It is this courage that makes her unforgettable. Ultimately, the difference between those who go unnoticed and those who leave an indelible mark in the hearts of others lies not so much in words or actions, but in the ability to awaken feelings and emotions in those around them. A woman whom they are afraid to lose knows how to touch the deepest strings of the soul, leaving an imprint that does not fade with time. Her presence in the lives of other people is felt not as a fleeting phenomenon but as something fundamental, based not on superficial impressions but on the powerful energy she radiates, on the sense of depth and solidity that surrounds her. She is not just present, she transforms, changing the perception of the world of those who come into contact with her. Carl Jung emphasized the importance of integrating all aspects of the human being, including those that society often calls for suppressing. An unforgettable woman does not strive for an unattainable ideal of perfection, but accepts her own multifaceted nature and complexity. She is not afraid of her internal contradictions, is not ashamed of the dark sides of her personality, and does not try to fit into the narrow framework of generally accepted ideas about what a woman should be. She understands that strength can manifest itself in tenderness and beauty in determination. She does not limit herself to one single aspect, realizing that she is an entire universe full of mysteries and discoveries. When a woman stops striving for the approval of others and begins to be herself, there are dramatic changes in her gaze, gait, and manner of speaking. She no longer needs constant confirmation of her value, is not afraid of condemnation, and does not seek approval to feel complete. This self-confidence is not imposed from the outside and is not put on display. It is simply felt, perceived by others without unnecessary words. However, self-confidence has nothing to do with arrogance. A woman whose presence in a man's life becomes invaluable does not rise above those around her, but possesses a rare gift, the ability to appreciate her own personality without resorting to comparison with others. The source of her self-respect is not the number of admiring glances, but a deep love for herself. That is why she does not experience fear of loneliness, does not cling to relationships devoid of reciprocity and support, and does not seek warmth where there is cold. Such a woman leaves an indelible mark not because she strives for it. She does not follow contrived rules of seduction, does not resort to cunning strategies, and does not play at being unapproachable. Her uniqueness lies in a unique energy and essence that cannot be categorized. Her presence is felt by every cell, and her departure leaves a gaping void. But most importantly, She does not set out to become someone they are afraid to lose. She does not live with the intention of leaving her mark on history, does not dwell on the idea of being unforgettable. She simply lives every moment with full dedication, sincerity, and love for herself, which does not depend on external circumstances. And, paradoxically, this is what makes her impossible to forget. There is a fundamental difference between a woman who is mechanically present and one whose existence is filled with authenticity and strength. The first tends to obey generally accepted norms, meet other people's expectations, and adapt to the requirements of those around her. The second is a self-sufficient force, a personality determined not by external projections, but by a deep inner awareness. Carl Jung, the famous Swiss psychoanalyst, spoke of individuation as a process of achieving wholeness, a path that requires courage and a willingness to self-knowledge. A woman with irresistible appeal has gone through this process, bravely facing her inner contradictions and revealing her unique inner light. She doesn't strive for an unattainable ideal, but accepts every part of herself without fear or shame. One of the most remarkable traits of such women is their ability to connect deeply and sincerely with others. This isn't a superficial interaction based on a need for attention or emotional dependence, but a genuine connection stemming from a deep understanding and acceptance of oneself. They don't seek in other people a means to fill an inner void, and aren't afraid of silence and solitude. They don't require constant validation of their own importance, as they already feel complete and self-sufficient. In modern society, where distraction and superficiality have become the norm, where few people find the time to stop and truly listen, a woman who can be present in the moment, look into your eyes with sincere intention, and speak with meaning becomes truly unforgettable. Her depth and authenticity stand out against the backdrop of the general hustle and bustle, leaving a lasting impression on those who have the good fortune to interact with her. It's not just about her attitude towards others, but also about her perception of existence itself. A true woman pulsates with life energy when she pursues a specific goal, when she finds a cause that inspires her and takes her beyond the everyday. And this doesn't necessarily have to be something outstanding in terms of generally accepted norms. It's not about popularity or universal recognition. It can be creativity, a passion, a deep inner search. The uniqueness of such a woman lies in the fact that she doesn't exist on autopilot. She doesn't agree to simply drag out her existence. Her enthusiasm, her dedication, her love for her work cannot fail to inspire. The people around her feel it, are inspired by it, and this forms a strong bond that is almost impossible to break. The famous psychologist Jung spoke of the archetype of the inner goddess, that part of the female psyche that embodies wisdom, intuition, and creative power. The woman that no one wants to lose has awakened this part within herself. This doesn't mean that she is invulnerable, that she doesn't have periods of insecurity or weakness. It means that she has learned to trust her intuition, to listen to her inner voice instead of suppressing it with external influences. She makes decisions based not on fear. She doesn't allow herself to be manipulated. She doesn't allow circumstances that don't correspond to her truth to influence her. Her life is a reflection of who she really is and not of what others expect of her. One of the defining qualities of such a woman is her emotional independence. She has a clear understanding of the difference between love and possessiveness, between simple attention and deep, sincere affection. She won't hold on to what doesn't belong to her, and she won't try to hold back those who seek to leave. She knows that healthy relationships are built on freedom of choice, that true love doesn't tolerate coercion or demands. This woman's confidence doesn't stem from a desire to be chosen by others, but from an awareness of her own power of choice. She doesn't experience fear of loss, as she understands that the only irreplaceable value is her own personality, her unique essence. It's important to note that this confidence has nothing to do with coldness or detachment. On the contrary, a woman who people are afraid to lose possesses a deep passion. She is capable of feeling with incredible intensity and loving with complete dedication. but her actions stem from a sense of inner harmony and self-sufficiency, and not from a feeling of inadequacy. She doesn't resort to playing hard to get to attract attention, and she doesn't need manipulation to maintain someone's interest. It is her sincerity and openness that make her truly irresistible. She isn't an illusion or fantasy created for fleeting pleasure. She is a real person with all the ensuing consequences, which makes her even more valuable and attractive in the eyes of others. There is something truly liberating in her way of life. Like a breath of fresh air, she doesn't need anyone's permission to be true to herself, doesn't hide behind false masks, and doesn't try to forcibly squeeze her unique nature into outdated frameworks of social expectations. Her distinctive presence can cause confusion and even hostility in those who aren't ready to face their own carefully hidden truth. But she serves as a source of inspiration for those who are in a relentless search for authenticity. After all, in the depths of each of us lies an insatiable thirst for something real, something that goes beyond banal superficiality and transience. And when a woman becomes a living embodiment of this truth, she leaves an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of those around her. However, her true value lies not in the admiration she involuntarily evokes in others. She becomes unforgettable, not because she receives universal recognition, but primarily because she recognizes her own worth and uniqueness. The source of her strength lies not in what others think of her, but in the unwavering inner confidence that her existence has profound meaning and significance. Her life does not revolve around an obsessive desire to earn someone's approval, and her self-esteem is in no way dependent on the number of admirers or those who desire her. She experiences genuine self-love, not because she is some unattainable ideal of perfection, but because she has learned to treat all her facets with deep respect, both light and dark, accepting herself completely. And this is perhaps one of the most valuable and inspiring lessons she can teach the world. At the very core of female strength lies something undeniable, especially when a woman fearlessly unlocks her potential, unafraid of uncharted horizons. She doesn't just drift along the river of life without asking questions, but boldly faces her inner contradictions. Each lived experience becomes a stepping stone to transformation for her, while maintaining her unique essence. Carl Jung, an eminent psychologist, emphasized the importance of uniting all aspects of the human psyche. He urged not to discard the unpleasant sides of oneself, but to strive for their understanding and integration into the overall picture of being. A woman whom people fear losing is not an embodiment of an unattainable ideal, but a personality who has learned to live in harmony with her authenticity, accepting both the light and dark sides of her nature. Her attractiveness is not in striving for universal recognition or in the desire to impress others with grandiose actions, but in the grace of her presence. She moves through the world with a confidence that does not need loud statements. She does not need to prove her worth, since her very existence is already an affirmation of this worth. This confidence is not a mask hiding inner insecurity, but the result of deep inner work, self-knowledge, which allows her to see herself without illusions and self-deception. The essential difference between an individual passively accepting the blows of fate and a personality capable of transforming the surrounding reality lies not in physical superiority or obtrusiveness, but in the crystal clarity with which this person presents themselves to the world. A woman who leaves an indelible impression does not resort to screams and demands for universal attention. Her influence lies in the ability to effortlessly imprint herself in the hearts and minds of those around her. This happens not out of selfish desire, but thanks to her genuine essence, which does not need proof. Deep self-knowledge gives her a unique advantage, the ability to make informed decisions based on awareness, not on blindly following habits or under the influence of fear. Carl Jung noted that many people live in the captivity of unconscious patterns, repeatedly reproducing the same scenarios without realizing it. However, when a woman awakens to a true understanding of herself and takes her life into her own hands, she ceases to be a toy in the hands of fate, becoming its creator. Her decisions are dictated not by the desire to meet expectations, but by harmony with her own essence. This revolution in consciousness radically changes her interaction with others. She no longer seeks approval or recognition, does not try to fill the inner void with external attributes. She does not waste herself on empty acquaintances and does not cling to relationships devoid of vitality. Loneliness does not frighten her. On the contrary, she has found harmony in communicating with herself. Her presence nearby does not burden or exhaust others, but seems to fill them with energy. That is why people who have had the chance to know her involuntarily feel drawn to her inner light, to the peace that comes from a person living in harmony with themselves. However, it would be a mistake to assume that she is unapproachable or alienated. Her inner freedom does not make her cold or indifferent to others. On the contrary, a woman whom people fear losing possesses deep spiritual warmth, but this warmth does not manifest itself in compliance or willingness to obey. Her love is a gift, free from any obligations and manipulations. She does not strive for control and does not accept when they try to control her, preferring to share her feelings from a pure heart. And this is one of the reasons why her presence leaves such an indelible mark on the soul of everyone who comes into contact with her. After all, when she decides to be with someone, she does it at the call of her heart and not out of a sense of need or dependence. This woman is memorable not because of some contrived perfection, but because of her genuine sincerity, which is becoming increasingly rare in today's world. She doesn't try to present herself in a favorable light, hiding her flaws behind a mask of flawlessness. On the contrary, she boldly displays her human nature with all its contradictions, capacity for change, and personal growth. She hasn't become stagnant in her development, doesn't cling to a once-chosen image, but adapts flexibly to life's circumstances, remaining true to herself. Her strength lies in her ability to transform without betraying her principles, to grow beyond herself without losing her individuality. It is this combination of inner strength and outer vulnerability that makes her so attractive. She doesn't hide behind an impenetrable wall, but she doesn't allow herself to be treated as something fragile and insignificant either. She intuitively senses when to open up to the world and when to establish personal boundaries, when to give herself completely, and when it's better to retreat. She doesn't play hard to get, but she's not one to be easily won over. Her love cannot be begged or demanded. It must be earned with time, attention, and reciprocity. And those who are fortunate enough to truly know her understand that losing her means losing something truly valuable and irreplaceable. She is a person whose essence cannot be grasped with a fleeting glance. Her nature is not for those who seek simplicity, obviousness, and predictability in human relationships. There is something in her very being that evokes an unquenchable interest, making one feel that behind every revealed aspect there is even more unexplored. She is in no hurry to reveal all her cards, not because she wants to seem mysterious, but because her multifaceted depth defies simplistic perception. Her intellect, her unique worldview, and her manner of behavior are permeated with subtle nuances that cannot be grasped upon first acquaintance. To truly know her requires patience and a willingness to abandon superficial judgments. However, she is not an impregnable fortress, does not hide behind masks, and does not erect artificial barriers. It's just that her essence is not accessible to everyone. She doesn't strive to conform to generally accepted standards or adapt to other people's expectations, and doesn't allow other people's desires to shape her personality. And she carefully protects her energy from those who are not able to appreciate it. Her presence is not for those who seek fleeting entertainment or are afraid of deep feelings. And that's why her influence on others is so great, because when she opens up, she does so sincerely and completely. She is not one of those who is afraid of indifference and does not resort to tricks, pretending to be inaccessible. She is alien to cunning plans, the purpose of which is to artificially increase her importance in the eyes of others, because her true value lies not in other people's perception, but in a deep awareness of her own personality. She doesn't seek to cause anyone's blind obsession, and doesn't feel the need to fuel anyone's ego. She appears as she is, without a shadow of pretense, without any masks, and without the burdensome task of proving anything. Her self-confidence does not mean a complete absence of doubts or moments of vulnerability. The difference is that she doesn't allow them to dictate her essence. She bravely faces her thoughts, doesn't run away from overwhelming feelings. She doesn't need someone from the outside to save her from painful silence. She finds answers within herself, while others desperately seek them in the external world. She realizes that her inner world does not depend on anyone's presence or approval. That's why she won't insistently beg for anyone's company and won't cling to what doesn't rightfully belong to her. She fearlessly lets go of what has ceased to bring benefit and satisfaction. When she enters a room, her presence is felt by everyone, and she doesn't need to make any effort to do so. It's not that she craves attention, it's just that her inner energy has a special attraction, in the way she occupies space, in her composure, in the quiet confidence she exudes. There is something that makes her impossible to ignore. She doesn't need to raise her voice to be heard or exaggerate her gestures to be noticed. The very fact of her existence is enough to leave an indelible impression. She leaves an indelible mark, standing out with her uniqueness. This woman does not seek to imitate others or fit into generally accepted standards. She is alien to the need for approval, and she resolutely rejects any attempts to limit her freedom of expression. In a world where individuality is often sacrificed, authenticity becomes an act of true courage. It doesn't blend into the faceless crowd or lose itself in the pursuit of recognition. It stands firmly on the ground of its own truth, even if it causes discomfort or contradicts accepted norms. It is through this unwavering sincerity that the relationships it builds are distinguished by depth and substance. It carefully selects its circle, allowing into its personal space only those who truly deserve it. It is not satisfied with superficial connections and doesn't waste time on relationships that don't bring fulfillment. And this, contrary to the perception of its unapproachability, makes communicating with it a truly transformative experience, capable of changing lives. Its persona is an example of natural expressiveness that requires no special effort. The uniqueness of its nature is so pronounced that it simply cannot get lost among others. It doesn't strive for dominance, but its presence is always felt. It's almost impossible to ignore it, and it's not about obtrusiveness, but about the indelible mark that its energy leaves in the surrounding space. The authenticity of its character is the result of rich life experience, decisions made, and triumphant victories in personal battles. It belongs to those who are not satisfied with ready-made solutions, but independently pave their own way in life, carefully selecting which aspects of personality to develop and which to get rid of. It doesn't follow accepted scenarios and doesn't allow other people's standards to define its essence. Its identity is formed not from a desire to conform, but from a deep, inextricable connection with itself. In a world full of hustle and bustle, it has learned to listen to its inner voice, trust its intuition, and not need external approval. Self-confidence is not a manifestation of arrogance or vanity, but the fruit of a long and painstaking path of self-discovery. It doesn't feel the need to prove anything to anyone, as it already has a clear understanding of its own personality and value. There is no place for manipulation or emotional games in its life philosophy, either in relation to others or to itself. It doesn't pursue the unattainable and doesn't avoid sincere feelings. Its nature is alien to both the role of the hunter and the fugitive. It has no illusions about unattainable dreams and doesn't succumb to the charm of false promises. Its love is a deep and conscious feeling that it doesn't waste on random people, possessing a rare ability to distinguish those who deserve its attention and energy from those who only seek to exploit its resources. It doesn't allow beautiful words to cloud its mind and doesn't get carried away by fleeting infatuations, building its relationships not on the basis of need or dependence, but on a conscious desire to share its life with a person who meets its internal criteria and is on the same level of development. The intensity of its gaze, the depth of its words, and the dedication shown in moments of sincere trust serve as vivid confirmation that it's not used to skimming the surface. It knows no fear of feelings and building protective barriers for fear of being vulnerable. It allows itself to be open and sincere, but at the same time, it doesn't lose its inner strength and independence. Love doesn't frighten it, but it doesn't idealize this feeling either, remaining a realist in relationships. It's not willing to settle for less than what it firmly knows it deserves. That is why those who lose it inevitably experience a sense of loss of something valuable and unique that cannot be replenished. The heroine of this story is not afraid of loneliness because she has managed to see in it not a gaping void requiring immediate filling, but a fertile space for personal growth and self-improvement. It has found true pleasure in being alone with itself, achieving harmony and complete understanding with its inner self. Instead of looking for fleeting entertainment and distractions to avoid encountering its own thoughts, it welcomes them as a valuable source of knowledge, carefully analyzes them, and turns them into life lessons. Its inner world is truly limitless and multifaceted, so it doesn't feel the need to look in the external world for what is already abundantly present within it. For this reason, when it decides to share its time with someone, it does so with absolute awareness and full dedication. It doesn't offer the world only a partial, truncated version of itself, doesn't hide facets of its personality for fear of being rejected. It appears before others as it really is, without any filters or embellishments. The very way it lives becomes a vivid statement of its principles and beliefs. It doesn't allow fear to shackle its movements or insecurity to paralyze its will. She has firmly learned that true growth occurs not in a zone of comfort and serenity, but in moments of boldly stepping beyond one's self-imposed limitations. She has learned to see each failure as a valuable opportunity for development, and each loss as an important life lesson. She doesn't cling to what has lost its relevance and no longer brings benefit. She doesn't burden herself with a load that exceeds her capabilities. Her inner lightness and freedom stem not from superficiality, but from a deep understanding of herself and the world around her. To achieve harmony with herself, she doesn't need to control every detail of her existence. Each of her statements is filled with meaning and significance. She won't waste words just to break the silence with meaningless phrases. Her speech is not an echo of other people's thoughts, but rather an invitation to look at the world from a different angle. Her mind constantly strives for new knowledge, growth, and improvement. She doesn't limit herself to one way of thinking and doesn't cling to outdated beliefs just for comfort. Her curiosity knows no bounds, and her desire for understanding seems bottomless. This is what makes her an interesting conversationalist, in whose company time flies unnoticed. She doesn't impose her presence with empty talk or feigned gestures. She doesn't need the approval of others to feel her worth, and she doesn't strive to meet someone else's expectations. Her sincerity is her best characteristic. That is why those who know her cannot help but feel drawn to her personality. There is not a drop of falsehood in her, no attempts to pretend in order to conform to imposed stereotypes. Her worldview is formed not under the influence of other people's expectations, but on the basis of her own understanding of herself and the world around her. When someone is honored to enter her life, they encounter a personality presented in all its fullness and diversity. She doesn't blur the lines of herself to meet someone's expectations or earn someone's approval. She appears in all the splendor of her complex nature, with all its inherent depth of feelings and intensity of experiences. Her love knows no half measures. It doesn't flicker with a barely noticeable light and doesn't set conditions. However, her heart is not an open door for every passerby. She has learned to conserve her energy, protecting her inner world from those who are unable to understand or appreciate it. In her view of relationships, there is no place for either naive idealization or cynical denial. She has no illusions about love, but she doesn't turn away from it out of fear of possible pain. She doesn't seek salvation from loneliness in the company of others, because her inner harmony doesn't depend on the presence of another person. She doesn't cling to relationships that have exhausted themselves and doesn't try to forcibly breathe life into connections that are devoid of meaning. If someone occupies a place in her life, it is only because she has made a conscious choice, and not because she has an acute need for someone. And when she feels that a relationship has ceased to bring joy and development, she knows how to let go without regret, anger, or fear of the unknown. The depth of her experiences with which she perceives every moment of life doesn't indicate that she is passively submitting to her emotions. On the contrary, she has an amazing ability to recognize her feelings, accept them, without allowing them to completely define her personality. She listens carefully to them, but doesn't allow them to unconditionally govern her every action. She doesn't try to suppress her emotions, but she doesn't allow them to control her either. Her inner balance is not a consequence of insensitivity, but a result of deep awareness. She allows herself to experience the full range of feelings, but doesn't lose herself in their depths. To an outside observer, she may seem like an enigmatic nature, and this is not because she deliberately strives for this image, but rather because her inner world is not so easy to comprehend. She doesn't reveal herself to the first person she meets, not because she is hiding, but because her essence cannot be expressed in a few words. Hidden within her are layers that are revealed gradually as trust is established and a sincere connection arises. And those who are fortunate enough to know her more deeply understand that her true value lies not in the external image she demonstrates, but in the strength of her character and in the consistency with which she lives her life. When she enters a room, the atmosphere around her subtly transforms, and this doesn't require a single ostentatious action. She doesn't strive to be the center of attention at all costs, but her presence cannot be ignored. She doesn't seek recognition, but attracts glances without the slightest effort. It's not about a deliberate desire to stand out, but about the fact that her essence simply cannot go unnoticed. Confidence emanates from her without words. Her charm is natural and genuine. People around her can sense it intuitively, even if they can't always explain it precisely. Her inner strength doesn't make her unapproachable. She doesn't come across as cold or aloof. She's open to new experiences and doesn't hide behind impenetrable armor. At the same time, she won't thoughtlessly waste herself on those who can't appreciate her worth. She's in no hurry to open her soul, not out of fear of rejection, but because she realizes that her energy isn't meant for everyone. Her vulnerability is a gift, available only to the chosen few, those who have proven their ability to accept it. The main difference between this woman and many others is that she doesn't strive to be understood at any cost. She doesn't feel the need to explain her essence or justify her actions. She doesn't seek approval and isn't tormented by doubts if someone doesn't see her true value. She understands that not everyone is capable of understanding her, and this doesn't bother her in the slightest. Her life path is determined not by external recognition but by inner conviction and clarity. As she journeys through life, her self-confidence only grows stronger, allowing her to manage her destiny with even greater determination. She doesn't allow the past to restrict her movements, doesn't hold on to what has lost its relevance. With wisdom, she knows when to complete a certain stage, change course, or recreate herself anew. She avoids places where there are no conditions for her development and doesn't maintain relationships that drain her energy. Her intuition unerringly tells her the moment to move forward, and she follows its call without hesitation. The presence of this woman serves as a reminder that true strength lies not in the desire to subdue others, but in the ability to self-support, independent of external circumstances. She doesn't strive for domination, but she doesn't allow herself to be dominated either. Her strength comes not from control, but from freedom. She doesn't need followers or admirers. She doesn't seek admiration, although her personality cannot help but evoke it. This truly unforgettable woman represents a quiet revolution in a world dominated by ostentatious existence. She achieves this state not through calculation, but through the courage to accept her humanity in all its fullness, with all its shadows and bright sides intertwined. As Jung stated, and as our souls intuitively feel, authentic presence creates an attractive field around itself that cannot be compared to any carefully crafted image. This is the amazing paradox of human existence. As soon as a woman frees herself from the obsessive need for the approval of others, her value increases many times over. By giving up the idea of being indispensable, she, strangely enough, becomes just that. The source of her strength lies not in the pursuit of power, but in unwavering integrity and the rare courage to be herself, without pretense or excuses. She serves as a reminder of our deep desire, not for unattainable perfection, but for a sincere encounter with the truth. In a world where illusions skillfully hide reality, there is nothing more attractive than a woman who has accepted her true essence. She offers not a reflection of other people's expectations, but the priceless gift of genuine human presence. This is not the end of her story, but only the beginning of a new chapter. A life without masks, love without conditions. She leaves her mark not because she strives for it, but because her essence has incredible power.